It all began with a storm, not just the one raging outside, but the tempest that shattered my family's fragile facade. I vividly remember the night when everything came crashing down, like shards of glass splintering under unbearable pressure. My father, the man I once idolized, turned out to be nothing more than a shadow of deceit and betrayal. It wasn't just his affair with our neighbor, it was far worse than that. He had gambled away every ounce of trust we ever placed in him. Our house, mortgaged to cover his mounting debts. His promises, empty words scattered like ashes in the wind. The man who used to tuck me into bed at night was now drowning in a sea of lies, dragging us along with him. My mother bore the brunt of it all. She sold every cherished heirloom jewelry passed down through generations, keepsakes from her parents' wedding, all sacrificed on the altar of survival. Each piece she parted with felt like another piece of her soul being torn away. Her hands trembled as she handed over those relics, her eyes hollowed by despair. But what broke me most was the confrontation that followed. One fateful evening, amidst howling winds and torrential rain, she stood face to face with him. Lightning illuminated her tear-streaked face as she screamed, "I'd rather live alone for the rest of my life than endure your lies and cowardice any longer." Her voice echoed through the house, raw and unyielding, cutting deeper than any blade. That moment etched itself into my memory forever, a collision of love lost, pride wounded, and hope extinguished. The betrayal cut deeper than any wound I'd ever known. When I discovered that Maxim, the man I thought was a humble security guard, was actually Maxim Melnick, a wealthy real estate developer, I felt like my world had been turned upside down. How could he deceive me so thoroughly? Every moment we shared now seemed tainted by his lies. The cafe where we first met, the casual conversations about life, even the way he helped me with the flower shop, all of it felt like a carefully crafted illusion. "You're nothing but a hypocrite." I spat at him, my voice trembling with fury. He tried to explain, saying he only pretended to be a security guard because he feared women would flock to him for his money, not for who he truly was. But I refused to listen. My heart was too broken, my pride too wounded. In a fit of rage, I grabbed the bouquet of roses he just handed me and hurled it straight at his face. The petals scattered across the floor, mirroring the shards of trust I once held for him. But fate has a cruel sense of humor. Just days later, my flower shop, the dream I had sacrificed everything for, was on the brink of collapse. Bills piled up, suppliers demanded payment, and I found myself drowning in despair. One evening, as I sat alone in the dimly lit shop, staring at wilting flowers and unpaid invoices, Maxim walked in. His presence was both infuriating and unnerving. Without hesitation, he offered to help, extending a lifeline when I needed it most. "I can cover your debts," he said calmly, his eyes filled with sincerity. But my anger still burned fiercely. "I don't need your charity," I snapped, my words sharp enough to cut steel. "Leave me alone." For a moment, he stood there, visibly hurt, before storming out, slamming the door behind him. It was only after he left that I realized how much harder things would become without him, but my stubbornness wouldn't let me reach out. After selling every piece of jewelry I owned, I thought the worst was behind me. But life had other plans. The dream of opening a flower shop, a sanctuary where people could find joy and beauty, was slipping through my fingers like grains of sand in an hourglass. Despite the money from the sale, it wasn't enough. Not even close. Imported flowers? Out of reach. Elegant vases? A distant fantasy. Even basic furniture for the store seemed impossible to afford. Each day felt heavier than the last, as if the weight of failure pressed down on my chest. My nights were restless, haunted by thoughts of giving up, the one thing I swore I'd never do. Then came the storm, literally and figuratively. One fateful night, a violent tempest tore through the city, leaving chaos in its wake. When I arrived at the shop the next morning, my heart sank. The windows were shattered, waterlogged petals littered the floor, and most of the plants lay broken or uprooted. It was as though the universe itself conspired against me. I collapsed onto the wet tiles, tears streaming down my face. All those sleepless nights, all the sacrifices, it felt meaningless now. How could I possibly rebuild when everything around me crumbled so easily? But then something unexpected happened. My friends showed up. Anna brought coffee and encouragement. Katruzia rolled up her sleeves and started cleaning with me. Their presence reminded me that I wasn't alone in this fight. Yet, just when I thought things couldn't get worse, the landlord called demanding immediate payment for the rent. Desperation clawed at my throat. That's when Melnick stepped in, or rather Maxim Melnick did. Through gritted teeth, I accepted his offer of deferred rent. "I don't need your pity," I snapped over the phone, but deep inside, relief washed over me. Still, pride kept me from thanking him properly. Against all odds, we salvaged what remained. With the help of volunteers, makeshift repairs transformed the wreckage into something livable. On opening day, I stood nervously behind the counter, unsure if anyone would come. But they did. Dozens of customers flooded in, drawn by word of mouth and curiosity. By evening, bouquets filled every available surface, and laughter echoed through the room. For the first time in months, I allowed myself to breathe. Maybe dreams can survive storms after all. Katruzia's world came crashing down when she discovered Mikolay's deepest secrets. It wasn't just that he was married, a betrayal she thought she had escaped, but also the crushing weight of his financial ruin. Debt collectors were calling him daily, and whispers reached her ears about how he had gambled away not only his savings, but also borrowed money under false pretenses. "You lied to me," Katruzia screamed during one particularly heated argument. "How could you drag us into this mess?" Her voice echoed through their small apartment, filled with anger and despair. Mikolay tried to defend himself, insisting that he was working hard to fix everything, but Katruzia refused to listen. She declared it over no more chances, no more excuses. Misha, her son, watched in silence as his mother packed Mikolay's belongings into a suitcase. When Katruzia announced that they would never see him again, Misha erupted. "Mom, please don't do this," he pleaded, tears streaming down his face. "He didn't mean to hurt us. He loves you." But Katruzia remained resolute, unwilling to expose herself or her child to further pain. That night, Misha disappeared without a word. Katruzia panicked, searching every corner of the neighborhood until she found him sitting on a park bench, sobbing. "I hate you," he muttered bitterly before storming off. Those 3 words pierced her heart like daggers. Meanwhile, Anna faced her own turmoil. Suspicion gnawed at her after spotting Oleg laughing warmly with a female customer at his repair shop. The image haunted her, fueling paranoia. One evening, unable to shake the feeling, she followed him discreetly. To her relief, the woman turned out to be nothing more than a regular client whose car needed fixing. Yet, despite uncovering the truth, Anna couldn't fully trust Oleg anymore. Doubts lingered, poisoning their relationship. The climax arrived unexpectedly. During yet another explosive fight between Katruzia and Mikolay, Misha stepped in to defend his father. Things escalated quickly. In the chaos, Misha slipped and hit his head against the edge of a table. Blood trickled down his temple as both parents froze, horror-stricken. Rushing him to the hospital became a silent truce, a moment of clarity forcing them to confront their fractured family. As doctors assured them Misha would recover, Katruzia realized the damage wasn't just physical, it ran deeper, threatening to destroy the bonds holding them together. Could forgiveness mend what had been broken? The tension between Katrusia and Mikolay had reached its boiling point. Every conversation ended in arguments. Every glance carried an unspoken accusation. Misha, their sensitive and fiercely protective son, bore the brunt of this fractured relationship. Watching his mother cry herself to sleep at night tore him apart. He couldn't stand seeing her heartbroken while Mikolay seemed indifferent, or so he thought. Determined to mend what he saw as irreparable, Misha hatched a desperate plan. During a martial arts training session, he deliberately twisted his ankle and screamed in mock agony, collapsing onto the mat. "It's broken," he cried out, clutching his leg dramatically. Panic spread among the other students, and within minutes, Mikolay arrived, pale with worry. Without hesitation, Mikolay scooped Misha into his arms and rushed him to the hospital. The boy clung to him, feigning pain, while inside, guilt gnawed at him for lying. At the emergency room, doctors examined Misha thoroughly, only to conclude there was no fracture, just a minor sprain. When Katrusia stormed into the hospital, her face flushed with anger, she confronted Misha immediately. "What were you thinking? Faking an injury like that? Do you have any idea how dangerous this is?" Her voice cracked under the weight of frustration and fear. Misha, tears streaming down his cheeks, stammered, I wanted you to come home, Mom. I thought if I got hurt, you'd forgive him and everything would go back to normal." Her fury melted into sorrow as she realized the depth of her son's intentions. She knelt beside him, pulling him close. "You don't need to protect me, sweetheart," she whispered, her voice trembling. But even as she comforted Misha, her mind raced. Was she being too harsh on Mikolay? Had she misjudged his efforts to reconcile? As they left the hospital together, Mikolay lingered behind, visibly shaken by the ordeal. For the first time, Katrusia noticed the exhaustion etched on his face, the same exhaustion she felt from carrying the weight of unresolved conflicts. That night, alone in her room, she replayed Misha's words. Everything would go back to normal. Perhaps it wasn't too late to try again. The weight of my suspicions gnawed at me like a relentless beast. After everything that had happened, the lies, the betrayal, the stormy confrontations, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was still more to uncover about Maxim. Was he truly who he claimed to be? Or was I being played for a fool once again? Desperation clouded my judgment, and in a moment of weakness, I hired a private investigator. It felt wrong, invasive even, but I convinced myself it was necessary. "I need answers," I told the detective, my voice trembling with uncertainty. What if he was hiding something? What if his charm and kindness were just another facade? Days passed like an eternity as I waited for the report. Each morning, I woke up dreading what I might discover. The cafe where we first met haunted my thoughts. Had every smile been calculated? Every word rehearsed? When the envelope finally arrived, my hand shook so violently I could barely open it. But the truth hit me like a freight train. Maxim had indeed divorced his wife years ago. There were no secret mistresses, no hidden scandals, just a man trying to rebuild his life after heartbreak. His ex-wife had betrayed him, draining his finances while pursuing affairs behind his back. He wasn't the villain I'd painted him to be. Instead, he was someone who had endured pain far greater than mine. Shame washed over me in waves. How could I have doubted him so cruelly? My accusations echoed in my mind: liar, hypocrite, womanizer. They now seemed like daggers I'd hurled at an innocent person. Sitting alone in my dimly lit apartment, I penned a letter filled with apologies. "I'm sorry for not trusting you," I wrote, tears smudging the ink. "You deserve better than my anger and mistrust." Yet, despite pouring my heart into those words, I lacked the courage to send them. Fear paralyzed me. What if he rejected me? What if the damage I caused was irreparable? So, the letter remained sealed, tucked away in a drawer, a silent testament to my regret. Anna's heart raced as she stared at the ring on her finger. After months of doubt, tears, and relentless trials, she had finally accepted Oleg's proposal. But joy was short-lived. Her parents' reaction was nothing short of a storm. "A mechanic? Are you out of your mind?" Her mother screamed, slamming the dining table so hard that the dishes rattled. Her father sat silently, his face etched with disapproval, while Anna tried to defend her choice. "He's not just a mechanic, he's kind, hardworking, and he loves me," she pleaded, but her words fell on deaf ears. The argument escalated into chaos, accusations flying like arrows in every direction. Her mother accused Oleg of being after their family's wealth, while her father threatened to cut her off entirely. Exhausted, Inna stormed out, vowing never to let anyone dictate her happiness. Meanwhile, Katruzia stood at a crossroads. Mikolay's heartfelt plea to live together her and Misha had moved her deeply. Yet trust was fragile, like glass teetering on the edge of a table. "I'll agree," she said firmly, "but only if you prove yourself over the next year. No lies, no secrets." Mikolay nodded solemnly, knowing it wouldn't be easy. Every glance, every word would now carry the weight of redemption. He promised himself he'd do whatever it took to rebuild what they'd lost, even if it meant swallowing his pride daily. For the protagonist, reconciliation felt impossible until one rainy afternoon when she found herself sitting across from Maxim in a quiet cafe. The air between them was heavy with unspoken pain. "I owe you an apology," she began hesitantly, her voice trembling. "I judged you without giving you a chance." Maxim sighed, leaning forward. "And I lied to protect myself, thinking I could shield my heart from more hurt." They both laughed bitterly at the irony, too, people afraid of vulnerability ending up hurting each other even more. Slowly, tentatively, they started to peel back the layers of resentment and misunderstanding. It wasn't perfect, but it was a beginning, a fragile thread of hope weaving its way through the wreckage of their past. Life, as they say, is not a bed of roses, but perhaps that's what makes it beautiful. Each character in this tangled web of love, betrayal, and redemption had faced storms fierce enough to shatter them. Yet through grit, forgiveness, and the courage to confront their truths, they found a way forward. The protagonist, once consumed by mistrust and anger toward Maxim, realized that holding on to grudges only weighed her down. She decided to rebuild her flower shop into a chain, spreading joy across the city with every bouquet sold. Her success wasn't just financial. It symbolized her journey from heartbreak to healing. Katruzia, too, discovered peace after years of turmoil. Though Mikolay had hurt her deeply, his unwavering commitment to rebuilding trust won her over. Together with Misha, they formed a family bound not by perfection but by resilience. Their laughter echoed through their home, a testament to how far they'd come. Meanwhile, Anna stood at the threshold of new beginnings, cradling hope in her hands as she awaited the birth of her child with Oleg. Despite her parents' initial disapproval, she chose love over fear, proving that sometimes happiness demands defiance. In the final scene, all four women met at their favorite cafe, the same place where dreams were born and shattered. They laughed, reminiscing about old wounds now healed. "Life goes on," Katruzia said softly, raising her cup. And for the first time, none of them felt afraid of tomorrow,